Councillor for Chingford Green.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Councillor Sally Littlejohn, a councillor in Canhall Ward.
My name is Chris Foxton. I'm Democratic Services Officer and Clerk to the Licensing Committee. I think Chair, you're muted.
Okay. Donya?
Donya Kalantari, Solicitor, Legal Services, Advisor to the Committee. Thank you.
Robert?
Good afternoon, Chair. Robert Sutherland, Solicitor, acting for Mr. Kanat. Mr. Abdul Haleem Kanat is the gentleman in the white shirt that you can see on the screen, and Mr. Yaqub Kanat is the gentleman in the checkered shirt.
Thanks very much for that, Robert. I hope I remember, but thanks. Marta?
Hello, everyone. My name is Marta Wasińska. I'm Senior Antisocial Behaviour Officer responsible for the south of the borough.
I've none. I do apologise. I've now run out of people I can see. Hang on. I've just opened the.
Chair, we've got the licensing officers with us.
Yeah. Could you bail me out, please, Chris? While I
should have Sherman with us.
Yep, good afternoon, it's Sherman from the licensing team, and I'll be the presenting the report.
Well, I think that looks like everybody, doesn't it?
No, you've still got me. Hi, Chair, this is Susan Ferguson. Today I'm responsible authority from the licensing section, and I'm here on behalf of Darren Riley, who made the representation. Thank you, Chair.
How could I have forgotten you?
We've got
Susan.
Tony from the place.
And have I asked?
Hello, Chair.
Yes.
Tony Ellis. I'm the licensing officer on behalf of the Metropolitan Police.
Right. Thanks very much. Thanks very much. Is Anthony your first name, or?
So it is Tony. Will do.
Tony. I
answer to lots of things.
Well, I always try to be courteous, but I generally use first names if that's all right with everybody at the hearing.
Definitely.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that. I hope I keep track of everybody. Right. Do we have any declarations of interest? No. I think that's clear. So, Donya, could you outline the procedure, please?
Okay, thank you, Chair. We'll proceed by way of agenda item 4 of page 7 of the agenda pack. The licensing officer will present their report. The chair will then call for all parties to present their case. We will begin with the applicant requesting the review. I understand that the police will begin with their representations, but the chair will clarify this with the police and the ASB team. Then this will be followed by the responsible authorities. I understand there are no other parties present, and then the licensee or club subject to review will have an opportunity to present their case. All parties will have the opportunity to ask questions at the discretion of the subcommittee. The chair will then call for all parties to sum up their case. We will begin with the responsible authorities. There are no other parties present. This will then be followed by the license subject to the review, and then we'll end with the applicant requesting the review. The chair will then confirm all parties have said what they wish to say. The subcommittee will then retire and make its decision in private, in closed session. The decision will be announced today, but as we're not sure what time the decision will be made, it may have to be published, or the licensing officer may have to contact the parties to confirm and what the decision is. Reasons and any right of appeal will be provided in a decision letter within 5 working days of the meeting. Also, I need to point out to parties that CCTV footage had been submitted by the police, and this will be viewed in a closed part of the meeting, which the chair will elaborate on shortly. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Donia. Robert, you have indicated you have a comment or question.
It was a question, sir, if I may. It's in relation to the individual who made a representation in support of the premises. Because he's not, or because his representation wasn't in the agenda papers, I was just checking whether he was actually notified of the hearing. I don't know the answer to it. No, I just don't know whether he's aware of the hearing today.
Chris?
Yes, we received the representation and we circulated it to the committee. I did get an email address, which I did send him the link to when I sent it round to all parties at the same time. So he should have the link.
Okay. Is that satisfactory, Robert?
Thank you, sir. Yes. The next problem, of course, is how I put my hand down. And I haven't worked that bit out, but there we go.
I can lower it for you.
I think if you go to reactions, it's gone. Look, there we are.
Chris sorted me. Thank you, Chris.
That's a very thorny question for me to have had to attend to. Right. Thanks, Chris. Now, is it Sherman or Donia who's going to present the report?
That'd be me, Chair.
Okay, do go ahead, Sherman.
Thank you. The review of the premises license under Section 167 of the Licensing Act 2003 has been initiated after Thames Magistrates Court granted a closure order under Section 80 of the Anti-Social Behaviour, Crime and Policing Act 2014 in respect of Snooker Lovers Club, 788 High Road, Leighton, London, E10 6AE. Details of the closure order can be found at Appendix A, and the contents of the closure application can be found at Appendix B. The application for review has been advertised in the prescribed form from the 23rd of March 2022 to the 30th of March 2022. This included public notices being fixed to several lampposts in the immediate vicinity of the premises, at the council offices, and on the council website. During the consultation period, one representation was received in support of the premises license holder from another person, and representations from the responsible authorities, the ASB team, the police, and the licensing team were submitted in support of the review. In accordance with the Act, the committee is requested to consider the closure order and any representations in determining the application for review. The committee may take such steps that it considers appropriate for the promotion of the licensing objectives. These steps are to modify the conditions of the license, to exclude a licensable activity from the license, to remove the designated premises supervisor, to suspend the license for a period not exceeding 3 months, to revoke the license. Where the authority decides to modify the conditions of the license or exclude a licensable activity from the license, it may provide that the modification or exclusion is to have effect only for a specified period, not exceeding 3 months. Alternatively, the committee may decide that no steps be taken in relation to the premises license. Having given due consideration to the review instigated by the closure order, together with any representations received, and after giving due regard to the Council's own statement of licensing policy, the committee is respectfully asked to determine which of these steps detailed in the report it considers appropriate for the promotion of the licensing objectives. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks very much, Sherman. We now move forward to the substance of the review, and I understand, Tony, I think you're to lead on this. Am I correct? And to all intents and purposes, you are the applicant.
Chair, with regards to the evidence for the closure, I believe that would be the ASB team, but the incident for the review would be coming from myself. So I'm not sure what order you want to hear that in. Whether you want to start with mine.
Which happened first? Did the incident happen?
Marta, you may have to help me out here. Was the closure order prior to the incident when that was initially applied for?
I'll take it in the chronology in which it happened. I think that would be easier for us to follow.
Yes, well, the closure order was obtained in court on the 16th of March. And the incidents that happened and the closure order generally sort of relied on in terms of the evidence of disorder, it was prior to closure order.
Okay, I think with my colleague's agreement, it would probably be easier, Tony, if you led, and then Marta, you could add anything you think appropriate at this stage. I'll just ask Donya. It appears that that would seem to follow the order that's given in the procedure, in that we could take it in the order. So, Tony, if you start, and then Marta, you could add. But with Donya's permission, I think I would like questions on those two submissions to be taken as one. Is that allowed? Oh, Robert's got something to say. Donya, can I...
I think the best procedure would be for the police to begin, followed by a question. Then Marta should provide her representation, followed by questions, and then should be the applicant. Otherwise, it's going to be very confusing. Who's going to ask which question?
Your advice is that I can't weld them together. I thought it might make the
I think it will make matters confusing.
Okay. Robert.
Sir, I was trying to be helpful, which was on the basis, and I may have been a little premature, that we were going straight to Anthony's evidence. I've seen a lot of CCTV, and if it assists the committee, I don't know what you have seen, but I don't intend to ask any questions in relation to the CCTV. And if that helps Anthony in relation to the which bits of the CCTV he wishes to show, then I hope it does. That's the reason I'm raising it.
I think that probably is quite helpful. I can tell you that members of the committee have not seen the CCTV hitherto, so it will form part of the hearing, although it is taken under private and confidential. Okay, so I'm going to proceed with questions to Tony, followed by Marta, and questions to Marta as is stipulated in the procedure, having taken Donya's advice.
So, Chair, of course, my advice is that the Metropolitan Police need to outline their representation, then questions. Once we've done and finished with that, then Marta needs to outline her representation, then followed by questions. Then Susan, the licensing officer, needs to outline her representation, then followed by questions. And then the licensee subject to review needs to outline their case, their representation, followed by questions. So that's my advice.
So thank you very much. So basically, Tony is the applicant, Marta is the responsible authority, and Susan is another party. If one is
Susan's a responsible authority as well.
I know, but for the purposes of the agenda, she'll be number 3. I was just trying to make sure I do it in the right order, and I think I've got that. So I was hoping we could fuse some of them together, which might make it a little swifter or easier, but let's go with it as writ. So Tony, please.
Thank you, Chair. Okay, on Monday the 28th of February, I was notified of an incident at the above address whereby after a call made to police officers, found within the premises a number close to 30 members of what they believed to be the travelling community. The group of both mixed males and females are said, which is noted on the report, to be intoxicated to the extreme. The crime report, I have the number, which I won't disclose at this stage, but I will have it if needed, states that the group had been allowed to bring their own alcohol inside the venue, and while inside, a fight had broken out. Staff were spoken to at the scene. No details were offered as to how or why the fight had occurred. Staff were spoken to at the scene. And no details were offered. An email was sent to licensing officers within Waltham Forest local authority, and a copy of the licence was requested. Details were obtained of Mr. Kanat, who was the licensee. That's Mr. Abdul Haleem Kanat, and he was spoken to on the phone. He informed police that he had actually not had any involvement with the venue and that his brother was now in charge. Due to the family name being the same, I'll refer to Jacob as he's the DPS. So contact was made with Jacob and an arrangement was made for myself and Darren Riley, the licensing officer for the local authority, to attend. On Tuesday, the 29th of February 2022, myself and Darren attended, and we met with Jacob at the venue. After a brief introduction, we asked to view CCTV of the incident that had occurred on the 27th. The licensable times...
Sorry, that's the 27th of
February.
Thank you.
So it would be important to point out the times of the licence at the moment. The last sale of alcohol and closing of the business is 1 a.m. While at the venue and in the presence of Jacob, we viewed the CCTV, concentrating on the incident that the police were originally called for. This is where a white male wearing a white T-shirt, believed to be involved in an altercation whereby members of the group that he was with use various items to arm themselves in a back and forth fight. We view the CCTV and question whether or not the CCTV is up to date with daylight saving and things like that, to question the times, which it was agreed that the times are correct. And we noticed that the venue was still operating at 0300 hours after the terminal hour of the license, stated on the license. It was also informed that while we're at the venue, there'd been another incident on the Monday night, which was the 28th, whereby another group of believed members of the travelling community were at the venue. This incident was also captured on CCTV. Jacob explained to us that this was a domestic incident that had gone wrong. When I asked to see the footage, I could see that there was a female at the venue that had emptied a bottle filled with liquid believed to be beer all over a male. Several moments later, the female was then seen to be throwing glass bottles into the bar area, and it was pointed out that we could see Jacob calling police on CCTV. On the CCTV, which we'll go through in more detail later, but on the CCTV you can clearly see people smoking, including the staff behind the bar. There appears to be a young child who appears to be around 10 to 12 years. This child is sitting in the middle of the pool table while there are a group of females sitting on the table, and the table's overflowing with cans and glasses. Jacob explained to us that he had no control over the customers. He tried to tell them to stop smoking, but they simply ignored his request and continued. He stated that he told the customers that they couldn't bring their own alcohol inside, however they continued, and Jacob and the staff could still be seen on CCTV to continue to serve members of this group. When all of this was pointed out, Jacob responded by explaining to both Darren and myself that after COVID and being closed, he was behind with bills and that he needed to make some money, demonstrating to me that he had total disregard of the licensing objectives and his responsibilities. When asked about why he was trading after licensable hours, he stated, using words to the effect of, "I hold my hands up, I know, I know." Again, this was demonstrating a total disregard to and leading officers to believe that if he had not been caught with this incident, that he would have continued to approach the running of his business in the same way. While viewing the CCTV, at one point there is a child seen riding around with an electric scooter inside the venue. All of this happens well after the terminal hour stated on the licence. At no point during either incident does it appear that the designated premises supervisor is in control of the venue. There are many issues that raise concerns regarding the licensing objectives. With regards to the prevention of crime and disorder, over-intoxication levels appear to play a massive factor in the behaviour of the males during the first incident. The designated premises supervisor can be seen walking around and not intervening or recognising that the situation is escalating. The designated premises supervisor is operating well beyond the terminal hour. He is allowing children inside the venue, allowing customers to bring their own alcohol in, allowing staff and customers to smoke inside the venue. And during the evening of the second night, the designated premises supervisor can be seen drinking shots of what appear to be tequila with the customers behind the bar. I request that the CCTV needed to be downloaded so that officers could view the incident in further detail. However, not convinced of Jakob's knowledge of using the CCTV DVR, under the Licensing Act, I seized the entire DVR. And as the licensing officer, I have no faith in the safe and lawful occupation that the designated premises supervisor has over this venue. At this stage, I fully support the application made by Waltham Forest officers from the Antisocial Behaviour Team in applying for the closure order, which has subsequently been granted. And we fear that, we feel that revocation should be considered. That was our initial statement with regards to the closure.
Thanks very much, Tony. Do my colleagues have any questions for Tony? Kay?
No, Chair, I haven't. Thank you.
Sally?
I have no questions. Thank you.
My question is, you mentioned, Tony, that you seized the whole CCTV equipment. Was this after reticence was given to surrender it, or was it just an instinct that you felt that it wasn't going to be, you weren't going to get the whole picture?
No, Chair. In the manner of transparency, this is something that is not out of the ordinary. It's not as straightforward as some people feel, plugging in a USB and downloading it. Jakob explained to me that he wasn't sure. He did get help on the phone. I just wasn't confident that the way in which it was downloaded would be sufficient. So it was agreed and seized. That Jakob didn't refuse in any way.
That was going to be that was kind of the subtext of my question, really, but yeah. Just to get to the reason. Okay, thank you very much, Tony, for that. Marta, do you have any questions for Tony?
No questions, thank you.
Susan, do you have any questions for Tony?
No, Chair.
Okay. Robert, or the Messrs. Kanat, do you have any questions for Tony?
Sir, to assist, I'll probably do most of the talking and asking of the questions. Where that changes, then obviously I will let you know if that helps you in dealing with us from the license holder perspective. I did have a couple of questions, if I may, for PC Ellis. Forgive my formality, PC Ellis. It's old habits, I'm afraid. You very fairly and appropriately indicated that you seized the hard drive, though no refusal was was made by Mr. Jakob Kanat. My understanding is that when the CCTV or when the hard drive was seized, an agreement was reached with the police about the premises closing. Are you able to fill in the sort of committee in relation to that?
Yeah, most definitely. There was between myself and Darren Riley, there was talks as to how we would be able to seize the CCTV, and obviously there'd be a condition on the license that he has to have CCTV. And we explained this to Jakob, and Jakob Jakob mentioned that he would voluntarily close while I could get that back to him.
And when was the hard drive returned?
I'll have to go back and look at the date of our first meeting, and it was when he attended Chingford Police Station.
I think it's a Friday, if I recall, but I may be wrong.
There was an issue. There was a delay with the hard drive because the second incident couldn't be retrieved, and certain parts of the CCTV on certain cameras would only download in 10-second bursts. So there was a delay of getting it back to him. So I think it was just over a week, but I may be wrong on that.
Just bear with me a second. I think Jakob is just coming back to me. So if you give me a moment. If I was to say it was the 11th of March, would that appear right, PCLs? I think that's the date that you're saying.
I'm just frantically trying to trawl through emails to find it. From memory, it was on the phone.
Okay.
I'm looking to see whether we've got anything. I mean, I can say that it was the 11th for the.
And it's accepted, I think, that the premises remain closed until the hard drive was returned.
Yes, it was. I think he's carrying out some cleaning and some small works he was going to carry out.
The only other question I had was in relation to Mr. Abdul Haleem Kanat. I think you indicate that you speak with him at the end of February. Am I correct?
Yeah, so it was. We were informed of the incident on the Monday, and that's when I frantically got hold of the license and then managed to get hold of the licensee and the DPS. So it was the licensee that I spoke to, and it was the licensee. It was Abdul Haleem Kanat that informed me that he was no longer and hadn't been for some time involved in the snooker club. I think that was following a disagreement between the two brothers.
And there was nothing that you'd seen in the CCTV which contradicted what he'd indicated to you, was there?
With regards to the licensee not being there?
Yeah, with regards to him not being at the premises or not being involved in the running of the premises. You didn't see him.
No, I'd never. To be honest with you, I wouldn't have been able to identify him anyway because I had never met him before.
Fair enough. Thank you. I've got no further questions.
No worries.
Thank you very much for that, Robert. We now move on to Marta, who for her statement.
Okay. Thank you. Antisocial behavior team attends meetings, it's violent assessment meetings with various partners from community safety, police, and other representative of the community. During one of those meetings, we become aware of a series of incidents that have taken place in Snooker Lovers Club. I will take you through, I'm sure everyone's seen the premises closure order application, but I just sort of very briefly describe the incidents that were reported to us during the meeting.
Could you just remind us of the page in the bundle?
I go from the schedule. Schedule of allegation would be the easiest. From page 3, I think it is. Everyone got that?
You're still muted, Chair.
It's not page 3, but
I think it's the schedule of allegations, sir, if I may assist. It's page 22
Oh, sorry,
of the bundle.
Yeah.
thanks very much.
My bundle.
Anthony. Yeah. Oh, yeah, brilliant. Thank you.
Okay. So there are various, obviously, incidents that were reported. Those incidents are taken from a disclosure from the police, which was requested. And this is just a summary of that disclosure. So on the 16th of September, there was an incident where police a person called the police reporting that drugs are being dealt at the premises. On the 18th of September, which is only 2 days later, police were informed of threats of assault to a member of the staff at the club. On the 26th and 27th of December, so within literally 26th of December and the very next day, there was a report of assault at the premises. From 15th of January or 16th of January throughout all the way till end of February, there were several, as you can see in the bundle, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There was at least a dozen assaults or incidents or fights have taken place in the premises. There was also a report from a doctor at the Hamilton Hospital on the 15th of February who reported of treating a person from knife injuries who had a large gash on his face. This was not reported by a person, but a doctor at the hospital reporting it onto police as a duty of care. A part of from January to end of February, so for almost 2 months, large fights or some kind of physical assaults and incidents have taken place at the premises. Obviously, a lot of other people attending the venue, including female children, underage persons. It was decided that a premises closure order would be the best course of action to deal with this, to close the premises for the time being, to protect wider members of the public, prevention of crime and disorder taking place at the premises. An application was made on the 16th of March. Mr. Kanat and Mr. Sunderland attended the hearing at the court, and it was agreed that the application is going to go ahead. We mutually agreed on the length of term for 6 weeks. The judge agreed on the application, and the premises closure order was granted for a period of 6 weeks, closing the premises to members of the public. Only Mr. Kanat or the family of 3 brothers, who I understand were allowed access to the premises, solicitor and their maintenance or repairs of workers with a permission from the council to attend and carry out any maintenance work. Otherwise, the premises was closed down and is still remaining closed down. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marta. Do my colleagues have any questions? Kay?
No, Chair, thank you.
Sally?
I have no questions, thank you.
Thanks. The chronology is very clear. I just I don't know whether you could fill in a bit more detail in that. Do we know there's a mention of the children associating children with the sale of drugs, which was I've lost it now.
It was reported, a call was made to police that drugs and cocaine had been dealt on the premises. The dealer had described Kurdish, and the drugs had been sold and consumed on the premises by children. This was a call is on police disclosure. Unfortunately, I have no further information whether police investigated that call or not.
Okay, thanks for that. And just with the report from the doctor, do we know what associated the knife injury with the premises? Did the doctor know that they come from the premises?
I believe it's been on the disclosure. The person that attended the hospital informed the doctor that he's been injured with a knife at the snooker club, snooker lovers club.
Thank you for that. And how do we know that the car where the large number of drugs were found where its occupants had been previously in the premises?
That's what they advised when they were stopped by police.
So the occupants of the car advised the police of this?
That they left snooker club.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you very much for that clarity. Now, do forgive me because we're the order is somewhat different from normal. So, Tony, questions from you, I think, if you have any.
No, none, Chair.
Okay. Susan, have you got any questions?
No, none for me, Chair.
Okay. Robert, have you got any questions?
So yes, I've got a few questions, if I may. Just picking up really on the questions which you've raised, Chair. I think the first entry is on the 16th of September, which is this intelligence report concerning drugs. Are you able to assist the committee with the quality of the information and how it has been graded by the police?
No, this was just part of a disclosure that police supplied to us this information. I have no inside knowledge whether that call or this incident was investigated by police or not.
Okay. And then a similar question in relation to the vehicle. So, which I think is the incident on the 21st of February. Again, is there any information that you have that you can assist with regards to the grade or quality of the information that that you're relaying to the committee?
No, I don't. It was a criminal incident which would have been perhaps hopefully investigated by police. It's not something that antisocial behaviour team would have any insight of knowledge of their investigation.
And then finally, in respect of the report on the 15th of February from the doctor, Do you know whether the doctor says that he had been to the Snooker Lovers Club, or whether the incident happened at the Snooker Lovers Club?
I do not know that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
No further questions. No.
Okay. Thank you very much, Robert, for that, and thank you very much, Marta. Susan, do you have any questions? No, sorry, Susan. Forgive me, Susan. Would you like to make a statement now?
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I'm making this representation or this talk on behalf of Darren Riley, licensing team manager, who apologised for non-attendance. He states our representation is in relation to the premises license review of the aforementioned premises as a result of the ASB order issued on the 16th of March 2022. The licensing enforcement team is of the opinion that more than one licensing objective has been undermined, and that this is directly related to the current management of the premises, particularly the DPS. We also believe that the premises are currently being operated irresponsibly and mismanaged. To summarise, Chair, and as you have heard, my colleague Darren Riley visited the premises with PC Tony Ellis. They had the opportunity to speak in detail with the DPS, Mr. Jakob Kanat, and view the CCTV, observing two separate violent incidents that occurred on two separate days at the venue. On both occasions, the DPS was present. The time was after the premises licensable hours of 0100 in the morning. Alcohol was being sold to a number of customers after that time. The DPS accepted that he sold alcohol after such hours as he needed the income. Several customers were apparently intoxicated. Fights on both occasions broke out among them. The DPS explained that he could not prevent individuals from entering the premises, although he knew they were problematic, that both he and staff were ineffective in stopping such incidents taking place, and as well as the customers bringing in their own alcohol and smoking inside the premises. The premises license holder is Mr. Abdul Kanat, Mr. Jakob's Kanat's brother. He has left the premises in Jakob's control. He allowed the premises to operate illegally, and we have no more faith in him than we do his brother, the DPS. Furthermore, concerning issues are that on other occasions children have been present and or involved in such violent behaviour. Licensing do not have any faith that the current management of the premises can operate the venue in line with the current hours and conditions responsibly without continuing to undermine the licensing objectives. Chair, we therefore recommend that the licence is revoked. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks very much, Susan. Do my colleagues have any questions for Susan? Okay.
No, Chair, thank you.
Sally.
No, thank you, Chair. I have no questions.
Okay. And neither do I. Tony.
No, Chair, no questions from me.
Marta.
No questions, Chair.
Robert,
please.
So yes, I've just got the one question, if I may. In respect of this particular premises license, before this, before the proceedings today, as a result of the closure order, have there been any previous applications for review or warnings to the premises about failing to comply with the license?
There has not been.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Robert. And now, would you like to make your case on behalf of your clients?
Sorry, sir, is that to me?
Yes, I think.
Sorry, I've misunderstood.
I think.
Sorry,
I
I
think
thought
if I'd gone wrong, my legal officer would have pointed it out.
Then obviously I'm wrong.
I'm trying faithfully to follow the agenda, and I'm pretty sure that once Susan had given her evidence, then it's the licensee who have to make their case, which I think means you.
Absolutely, sir. I think I was waiting, or I wasn't sure as to when the CCTV was going to be played, and I thought it was going to be me after the CCTV.
Well, that's fair enough. The point is that looking at the order of proceedings, neither do I. Would it be Chris? Would you be able to enlighten us when the CCTV will be shown?
Yes, Chair. I think it's at your discretion to when you think it is the appropriate time to view the CCTV footage. Obviously, would then need to move into exempt session. But if you feel that now's the appropriate time, we can do that now, or we can take that after the license holders' representations.
Who do we exempt?
We exempt those who are watching on the YouTube feed. So what will happen is I'll put a temporary slide onto the YouTube feed. The video will continue running, but they won't be able to see or hear this side of the meeting. And then once the CCTV footage has been viewed, I'll switch back and they'll be able to continue watching proceedings.
Right. Robert, are you happy to proceed and then to watch the CCTV after you've had questions?
I'm happy to proceed. In essence, so you've probably picked up from what I'm saying that I don't dispute that the incidents happen, and the CCTV is the CCTV.
Okay.
I'm addressing the committee, particularly, as you've seen from the statements, I hope, more to do with what we've done to make sure that we're promoting the licensing objectives and this doesn't happen again. I think that's very much how I'm putting the case.
Okay. I think then it would be, speaking personally, I'd rather that we had your statement, your client statement, followed by questions, and then we looked at the CCTV after that, if that's all right.
Sir, entirely in your hands. Obviously, if there's any questions which come out of the CCTV, then I'll be happy to respond. But my submissions don't rely upon the CCTV. Can I just check, so that you've seen the bundle which was put together and submitted, I think, yesterday, which includes statements from Mr. Yaqub Kanat, Mr. Abdul Haleem Kanat, and then some photographs and email extracts. Sorry, sir. I think you're on mute.
So I'm just to check with Chris. That's the supplement representations from the license holder, right?
Yes.
Thanks. I'm just going into that now so that I can refer to it. It goes from page 2 to 16. So if you have that, Robert, and you are referring to any particular bit of evidence, if you could give us the page number, or Chris could give us the page number, that would be helpful.
It may be useful, sir, if I take you through that statement or through the statements. In essence, it is what Mr. Yaqub Kanat does say to the committee. I think I would start by saying that both Mr. Kanat apologised to the committee that their premises is in front of the committee, and the reason why it is in front of the committee. Mr. Yaqub Kanat apologises for his personal involvement, and Mr. Abdul Haleem Kanat apologises in the sense that his premises is here, it's his premises licence, and ultimately, of course, therefore he is being held responsible. I think before taking you through Mr. Kanat's statement, the issue that I've indicated to the committee is very much that what we are looking to persuade the committee to do is to look forward. The closure order looked backwards. The closure of the premises, of course, the premises are closed until the 26th of April. And that was on the basis of an agreement with the local authority. Mr. Kanat has not fought these proceedings, and hopefully, as you've picked up from Mr. Ellis, PC Ellis, they have worked in conjunction with the authorities to enable the closure order to take place, to provide the evidence so that the investigation can take place and continue. The circumstances, Mr. Kanat in his statement deals with, Mr. Jacob Kanat deals with his background and how they've taken over these premises about 15 years ago, and that it has been a family-run business. It started off as a shisha bar when, if we can all remember that far back, smoking was allowed inside of premises. It seems like a lifetime ago. Of course, things changed in 2007, and at that stage, the premises becomes the Leighton Snooker Lovers Club. Mr. Jacob Kanat deals with the history, how it's developed, and deals with some of the games and how it operates at the moment. He also deals with the improvements to the CCTV system, which he has introduced to the premises. I suppose the key part, really, and this is the distinction that I would look to invite the committee to take, is the circumstances which happen in the summer of last year, when Mr. Abdul Haleem Kanat and Mr. Jacob Kanat have a disagreement and, in effect, go separate ways. Mr. Abdul Haleem Kanat goes to focus on a new business that he is setting up in Barnet, and Mr. Jacob Kanat focuses on the particular premises that we're talking about today. In relation to these particular premises, you've not been given any information of any problems prior to that occasion. Indeed, on the question of the licensing authority as to whether there were any issues or problems with the premises prior to these proceedings, there is nothing. It's very much my submission that Mr. Jacob Kanat, for the financial pressures which he refers to in his statement, and in fact you heard he mentioned to the police, wrongly operates in a manner which is not acceptable outside of the hours, allows a crowd into the premises, which in essence I would say is the problem for this particular set of circumstances. They take over the running of the premises. He doesn't control the premises, and you've seen the schedule of incidents which are set out. Just dealing with that schedule of incidents, because he goes through the occasions specifically. The incident on the 16th of September, which on its face is a serious allegation, and it raises many questions as to what action is taken on it. What you're not told is the grading that this information was given. All intelligence which is recorded by the police is graded, and it will be graded on the type of source and the reliability and how much emphasis or reliance they're going to be placed on the information as to what action is taken. Now, we don't know what grade this information is, this intelligence. We don't know whether it's from a source of information which has provided information in the past, or whether it's a single source, first time it's been produced. Therefore, it's not particularly reliable and may well have just resulted, if any action was going to be taken on it, in somebody coming along to the premises and saying, we've had this allegation, what do you want to say about it, or what are you doing about it? Can we see your CCTV in order to check this isn't happening? Mr. Yaqub Kanat is very clear on this. We're not aware of this until we see it in the application for the closure order. No one has raised this with him. He totally refutes the allegation. It could be for any reason. It could be somebody who has an axe to grind with Mr. Yaqub Kanat. We just don't know. And therefore, I would invite the committee to not give much weight, if any, to the allegation that is there. It is said. I accept it is said, but we don't know what reliance or what weight can be given. The next incident that really is referred to is on the 18th of September. Mr. Yaqub Kanat says, well, I don't know anything about that incident. No one brings it to my attention until now. And so the first incident, which I think probably marks the change in circumstances and probably is the start of this whole process, is what happens on over Christmas, 26th, 27th of December. That's when Mr. Yaqub Kanat says, okay, that's when this group really starts to attend the premises on a regular basis. It's around Christmas time, and we have the first indication of a fight between the groups. Of all the instances that are referred to in the schedule, all of those instances, I'm going to say, apart from the one from the doctor, the car, and the other ones that I've just referred to, are raised by Mr. Yaqub Kanat. He reports these incidents to the police. He raises the issues. It's nobody else. It's him that actually brings the authorities to the attention of what's going on. I don't put that forward as any excuse for operating outside of hours. I merely put it forward as, you know, it's him that's highlighting the problem. It's not somebody else that's highlighting it. You then go through the incidents, obviously, in January, where the alarm is activated, he says by himself, by mistake. You've then got the assaults, which again appears to be fights between the members of the group who are attending the premises, called to the police in order to help get the police to help him remove them from the premises because of the problems that they're causing. In relation to the assault which takes place in February, where the doctor reports it, it's again Mr. Yaqub Kanat's understanding that it doesn't take place at the premises. Certainly they're there at the premises, but they go off, and indeed they find out at the premises that the incident has happened and has gone to the hospital, and then people leave quite hurriedly after that. So we say it actually happens just down the road. But nonetheless, the premises is open. Incidents of violence do take place. It's said by the police and by the licensing authority that that the DPS had lost control. And I don't think I can argue with that in relation to the way that the evidence is put across, and you'll see the CCTV. Mr. Abdul Haleem Kanat accepts the circumstances that he finds himself in. but looks to put it this way to the committee. For us, it's about the changes that we are now introducing. He's now aware of what has happened. The situation which led that he was focusing on the premises in Barnet has meant that he's in the process of disposing of that property, as you've seen from the emails with his agent. It's hoped that process will complete very soon, which will then enable him to focus all his attention on the premises, Leighton Snooker Lovers Club. The premises, of course, is currently closed and will remain closed at the moment until the 26th of April. What we say is that the problem in relation to the promotion of the licensing objectives was twofold. One, the group who attend the premises, and two, the DPS who didn't control that group and didn't deal with that group. Mr. Abdul Haleem Kanat indicates that in all the time that he operated the premises, which is really for the majority of that period up until last year, when he's involved in the premises, and he takes you through that in his statement from page 5 onwards. He deals with his background and the background and the operation of the premises. He sets out that there were no problems in relation to the operation. He did have a time when a traveller group did try and gain entry to the premises and take over the premises, and he flatly refused entry. And it never proceeded beyond that. He says that was back in around about 2014, so some 8 years ago. He dealt with it very swiftly, and from his experience, that's the way it should be dealt with. The other issue, I suppose, that we would say in relation to the traveller group, the premises was closed for a period at the beginning of March voluntarily. It then opened for a few days when the hard drive came back, has been indicated from my questioning with PC Ellis. And then you'll be familiar with the application then for the closure order. Whilst the closure order was heard on the 14th of March, there's an interim closure order which is made, which takes effect on the Monday. So the premises opened, I think, on the Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It was then closed from the Monday until the court makes its order on the Wednesday. And then, of course, the premises has been closed under the closure order. This particular group who had caused the difficulties at the premises in February and January will have moved on. They will have found somewhere else to go, and they will be, I'm sure, drinking at another premises. They won't be coming back to this particular location. How can I be sure of that? Well, the reason that I say that I can be sure of that is through what Mr. Abdul Haleem Kanat says, that in relation to the premises license, he is coming back to the premises and he will be at the premises every day when it reopens. We propose to the to the committee, an alternative approach rather than revocation for this particular license. So we say that the licensing objectives can be promoted by a suspension of the premises license. The premises, as I've indicated, are already closed until the 26th of April, and we would invite the committee to suspend the premises license until that time. In relation to the DPS, the DPS has resigned and has left, which in effect is recognising, of course, the committee's power to remove the DPS from the premises. he's resigned and will not be DPS at the premises. The intention is that Mr. Abdul Haleem Kanat will not only be the licence holder should the committee allow the licence to continue, but will also be the designated premises supervisor responsible for the running of the premises. The other step that will be taken, and this is backed up with the conditions which I've submitted, which I'm hoping that the committee members have seen, which will be to exclude Mr. Yaqub Kanat so that he's not involved in the management or control of the premises should the premises license continue. That means that, of course, Mr. Abdul Haleem Kanat, who will be present, he will be in control. He will make sure that this particular group won't gain entry. The other step that we are looking at taking is in relation to operating as a membership proprietary club. So you will have seen that at the back of the bundle of papers that I've submitted from page 12 onwards, you have it's actually an extract from the it's pages 12 and 13. In fact, you will see that it's sorry, it's 12 and 13 on my bundle. It's paginated. It may be slightly different on the official version because I think they've paginated it slightly differently. But if you look at the numbers on the bottom right-hand corner of the papers that are submitted, it should be pages 12 and 13.
Pages
You'll see
15 and 16 on the supplement.
Thank you, Chris. Do appreciate that. So that sets out the membership software and system that we're looking at using. It's based on they do membership software for gyms and sports clubs. We're looking at adopting the membership system, which basically enables us to have or produce membership cards, which when the membership card is produced in order to gain entry to the premises, because we have a buzzer system, an video entry phone system, that when the individual looks to gain entry, they will show the card, and the membership card will then be accessed through the computer system at the premises, which will show the photograph of the individual so that you can't have people passing cards on to other people, and we'll be able to identify who it is who's coming in. So that's the system that we are looking at introducing. In addition to the membership system, there will obviously be a guest system, but the guest system will be limited to up to 4 individuals. Those 4 individuals will be required to produce photo ID. So again, everybody who's coming into the premises will have to produce some form of personal identification to prove who they are. That, from experience, means that people who are attending are less likely to be troublemakers, because they're not going to be attending a premises if they're giving their identification documents to the premises so that the individuals can be identified and can be tracked down. So the membership system we say is important to that process, and that's what we're going to be introducing. In relation to other conditions which we have put forward. Sorry, before I get to the conditions, the other things that we've talked about are in relation to the operating hours. So we've talked about opening of the premises. This is at it's at the end of Abdul Haleem's statement. So bottom right-hand corner, it will be page 7, but it might be slightly different if you're looking at the central number from the on the committee papers. But at the end of Mr. Abdul Haleem's statement, he refers to the opening times and that it will open around about lunchtime every day, will stay open until all customers have left, or around 1 a.m., whichever is the earlier. Proposes a condition that will require no customers to be on the premises after 1:15 in the morning until 11 a.m. in the morning. So in essence, it means that people can't remain on the premises, and the condition enforces that. Again, to assist in the management of the premises to promote the licensing objectives, he proposes to have a last admission to the premises of midnight, which allows 45 minutes basically to complete a game. I'm reliably informed that pool snooker, that generally 45 minutes would be sufficient to enable a game to be completed. And that the last sale of alcohol would be taking place at 00:30, so that in essence would enable the premises on the license. It has a closure of 1 a.m. That would enable obviously a controlled, managed closure, whereas at the moment, I think on the license, the sale of alcohol ends at 1 o'clock, as well as the closing of the premises ends, or is also at the same time. This would allow a staggered approach. And it also enables us to enable or to ensure that everyone, every customer is off the premises by 1:15, which then kicks into the additional condition that there'll be no customers on the premises between 1:15 in the morning and 11 o'clock later that day. How can you be confident Mr. Abdul Haleem Kanat will do what he says? My response to that question would be, sir, that he's done it. He operated the premises for many years without any problems whatsoever. When he was in control of the premises, he ensured that the license operated, the premises operated in accordance with its license. He ensured that it promoted the licensing objectives, and there were no incidents. It's only since he left the premises last year that situation has arisen. I've included within the papers emails so that you can see the progress in relation to his Barnet premises. The reason I put photographs in of the Barnet premises is to just show you how meticulous Mr. Abdul Haleem Kanat is in relation to the premises that he operates. Everything has a place. And I'm hoping that, I mean, the photographs don't do it justice if you're looking at them digitally and can look at it. Everything in that shop, in that cafe, has its place. Nothing is out of place. And that is how Mr. Abdul Haleem operates. And that's how he will operate when he comes back to Leighton Snooker Lovers Club. It's how he operated before he left Leighton Snooker Lovers Club. In respect of, I think that takes us through the bundle. Let me just deal with the conditions, if I may. That document, which I've submitted to the committee, the membership condition is set out at the first condition, headed membership condition of entry. So only members and members' guests will be able to be admitted to the premises. Guests, as I've indicated, will need to produce a photo ID so that they can establish who they are. Those records are available for production to the authority, to the police, on request. And those details will be retained for a period of at least 30 days. In relation to the CCTV, there is a CCTV condition on the license, as you'll have seen. I've made the CCTV condition more robust. It reflects in effect the CCTV system which Mr. Yaqub Kanat installed in the premises, but it gives it a conditionality to ensure that we're complying with it. And if for any reason the CCTV is not working, then of course there's a duty on us to report it, as well as a duty to check that the system is working on a daily basis, and to keep records and to produce those records to the authorities as required. The proposal at the moment, it runs and operates a Challenge 21 system. We would look to operate a Challenge 25 system, but as everybody in the premises will need to produce identification, it will be clear as to what everyone's age is, simply because that form of identification will need to be produced either to become a member, or if you're a guest of a member, will be needed to remain on the premises. There's the condition which deals with Mr. Jakob Kanat. Forgive my typographical error. It should say Mr. Jakob Kanat will not be involved in the management or control of the premises. And then finally, in relation to the management of the premises, I've put the conditions down to reinforce what Mr. Abdul Haleem Kanat is saying about the last admission to the premises being at midnight, that no customers will be permitted to remain on the premises after 1:15 through to 11 o'clock later that day, and that a personal license holder will be present on the premises from 6 o'clock in the evening through to the close. Each day the premises open for licensable activities. I would commend those proposals to you. Obviously, sir, if there are any questions, I'd be happy to deal with them.
Thank you very much, Robert. My colleagues, Kay, do you have any questions for Robert and his clients?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Robert. When Mr. Abdul Haleem Kanat left over a year ago, did he do anything about the premises license? Why did he not transfer it into his brother's name? If he didn't have anything to do with it.
Sorry, madam, I was having a fight with my mute button. He didn't leave a year ago. It would have been last summer. I believe it was around about July, August time.
Yes, right.
It's a very good question, Councillor, and had he done so, I wouldn't probably be in the difficulty that I'm in today, given that he's the premises licence holder. I don't think it was viewed as necessary. I don't think any thought was probably given to it at any stage. The premises, as I've indicated, has for a long time been a family business. Mr. Abdul Haleem Kanat has been the licence holder for, I'm just going to check if I may, just bear with me a second. Do you know when you took the licence? Was it the original licence you took? Sorry. We think that he's held the licence since it was issued. So I just think it was on the basis that as it was a family business and premises been operated, it was just left.
Disagreement, I would have thought leaving a business with with an argument with your brother, you transfer everything so you're clear out of it. So I'm just wondering. So obviously he still trusted his brother to run the business, I'm thinking.
I think that's true, that he did trust his brother to run the business. I don't think there was anything that he was aware of or had seen which had led him to believe that his brother wouldn't continue the business as he had operated it.
Okay, and I think in the notes it said the premises holds between, not holds, but between 70 and 80 people will go in and out throughout the day. Please don't hold me to the numbers, but I think, and at one time it could be between 30 to 40 people. My question was answered by Abdul Haleem Kanat, but when he said he's going to be running it with four staff. So, but now with this new membership, each one brings 4 guests, and also would it allow children? The members, would they be allowed to bring children? That's also the other concern.
Yes, I think you're looking at it's Mr. Jacob Kanat's statement, and it's paragraph 18, I believe, is what you're referring to. That was giving an indication of the numbers that they were expecting and operating without a membership. I think it will take a little bit of time to build up the membership. I think it is hoped that most people who would come to the premises will be members or will apply for a membership. I don't think that it's expected that those numbers would significantly increase on the basis that if you had members and they were each allowed to bring 4 guests, that you could be looking at, I suppose, on the face of it, you could be looking at something in the region about 300 people. I don't think it's that basis. I think it's expected that instead of people just coming along, that there'll be members, and it may just be 1 or 2 friends that would tag along.
And what about children, the rules for children?
In relation to children, the club has operated, the premises has operated on the basis that under 18s are only allowed with a supervising adult. Children are raised in 3 aspects, I think. Once in relation to the intelligence, which is not accepted. It's completely not accepted at all. I think the only time that children is then mentioned is from the CCTV, and I think I would look at the group that the children who are present, or the child who's present during that period, is being supervised or should be being supervised by their parent. I would anticipate that their parent is present in that room. The degree of supervision, I'm going to sound like a very old parent in my next comment, and I hasten to say that I having been a parent of 5 children, I'm still a parent of 5 children, I'm slow to criticise any parent, but it would appear to me that the parent who's present doesn't appear to be supervising their child on the occasion that you can see them on the CCTV. The intention would be here that only persons under 18 would come in with a parent or guardian. And it's that closer relationship that I think we're talking about. We're not talking about friends. We're talking about some form of blood family relationship, possibly with uncle or aunt, but we're not talking about any further apart than that.
And just one more question, please. How big is the premises? How many people would it hold at one time if it was full up? How many people would it be holding?
I'm just going to ask Mr. Kanat, if I may, just bear with me.
Okay.
What do you reckon? Sorry. Okay. The actual room, if it was cleared out of furniture, we think you could probably fit a good 300 people in it. It's quite a large room. In reality, though, it doesn't operate in that way. The intention is, and certainly the rules that they've operated with, that you've got some full-size snooker tables, and then a number of pool tables, plus you've got a football table. All of those take up quite a bit of space. They have a rule in relation to the number of players at any particular table. So they would limit the number of players on any table to 4. So in essence, they would say that you probably, I've put 60 to 80 persons at sort of, 30 to 40 people as a maximum at any one time, and they would probably say that you're not looking at much more than that. You may be looking at around about 60 to 80 people maximum, if you were operating it as a snooker club.
Right, and it's 4 staff that will be there from open to the closing time. Will they be there all day with him? I'm just thinking when it's a big, a crowded time, and there's another fight breaks up, the 4 staff will be able to, solve the problem. Are they trained to solve problems?
Madam, if I can answer the question in this way, I think that the problems which arose, I would say, in this particular case, arise because the wrong group get into the premises. That's where I think the lack of control, all the problems arise. The control,
serving after closure time and smoking, I don't think it happened because of the group, did it? So
I think it's entirely the group. Entirely the group, madam. I don't accept that the normal members, or the people that we are looking to be members, were a problem. And the reason I say that is that the premises operated without any incident for since 2007 through to 2021. That's 14 years. There was no reason. There was no reason for the problem's not the snooker players. The problem was that particular group who gain entry to the premises or allowed entry to the premises and are not controlled, and they take over control of the premises. And that's what gives rise to all of the incidents, all of the fights that were between the group. All of the reports in relation to those fights are Mr. Yaqub Kanat trying to bolt the door after the horse has bolted, if I can put it that way. He's raising the issues with the police because he needs help in dealing with it. The solution was not to have allowed the group in, and that's really what Mr. Abdul Haleem is looking to control, is not allowing that group in, but then emphasizing that point with a membership. So you've got control about who's coming into the premises, because you will have had proof of identity, proof of address for the members before they become members. You've then got their guests who will have produced some form of ID as well. From my experience, generally, if you've got where people provide their identity, means of identity to gain entry, that they are less likely to cause a problem. If it was necessary at busy times to look at engaging a door supervisor, we could look at that. I think the issue may well be in respect of costs, and I think what we would say is that we're looking at controlling the group by way of the membership and the documentation. We have the entry phone system, the video entry phone system, that also enables us to control entry, so people can't just walk in off the street. You've actually got to press the buzzer, show your ID or show your membership card in order to be able to gain entry to the premises.
No, I appreciate that. That sounds good. I also appreciate Mr. Abdul Haleem's reducing of the last orders. So I do, I have taken that into consideration. Well, thank you so much, Robert. Thank you for the questions and the answers. Thank you. Thank you, Chair. That's all.
Okay. Thanks, Sally. Do you have any questions?
Thank you. I've just got a couple of questions, really. One is about staff numbers, and I don't think we did get a clear answer to Kay's question on that. And my other question is about Mr. Yaqub. Sorry, I've forgotten his other name. Is he going to be employed in any way? I mean, you've said not in management or control, but, might he be employed in any other capacity? Is there some way well, how can we be sure that, you know, if he's around, this group of people may not return, or a similar group of people who may sort of take advantage of his incapacity to manage such people? That's my concern. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam. In relation to staff levels, I'm just looking at Abdul Haleem Kanat. The numbers are based on his experience. As I say, he's the expert in this matter, not me. We've said 4, and generally speaking, during the day, how many staff would you have? So we're saying 2 staff during the day, Madam, and then, sorry, 2. And then in the evening time, would it be a 2 still? Okay. We think that with the numbers that we're talking about, bearing in mind that most people will be playing pool or snooker or the table football, that to deal with the bar and service and other things that need to be done, 2 staff is probably about right. That would be 2 plus Mr. Abdul Haleem Kanat, so 3 in the evening time when it's busier. In respect of Mr. Yaqub Kanat, how can you be sure? Mr. Abdul Haleem, I think, is setting it out clearly to you and saying, look, I appreciate that you may say it's easy to be straight and honest and frank when you've been caught, but in a way, I suppose that's what I am saying, in that when Mr. Yaqub Kanat, when he's confronted by PC Ellis and by Mr. Riley, he doesn't try and hide anything. He makes, I would submit, full and frank admissions in respect of instructing me to assist them in this regard. They, in fact, I don't get involved until really the closure order is being raised, but they close voluntarily. And there's, in fact, the offer is to close voluntarily by Mr. Yaqub Kanat when they don't have the hard drive. They don't reopen until that hard drive comes back. Obviously there's then an interim closure order where the premises is closed and the premises closes. The order is not fought at court, and your officer indicated that we reached an agreement in relation to it. There's been an acceptance that this should not have happened. Mr. Abdul Haleem Kanat again has made that very clear through his statement, and the fact that he will be, he is the license holder. It's going to be his responsibility to ensure compliance. He will be the DPS if you allow the license to continue, and therefore he's putting his name to it, as it were, that he will ensure that they comply. There is a condition which prevents Mr. Yaqub Kanat from being involved in the management and control. So certainly that condition would prevent Mr. Yaqub Kanat being involved in management. It would prevent him from running or being involved in the running of the premises, or being one of the members of staff. It's certainly Mr. Abdul Haleem's intention that Mr. Yaqub Kanat is not employed at the premises in any way which deals with the membership or the admission of people into the premises. So I suppose, what am I saying? You've got Mr. Abdul Haleem Kanat, his words, what he's saying. You've got the number of years that he's run and operated the premises. You've got the conditions. The added I suppose, safeguard, if I can put it this way, is the CCTV system. Again, this is one of those cases where, and you'll see the CCTV system and the recordings, they speak for themselves, and in many ways they are an indictment on Mr. Yaqub Kanat, and you will see that. If there are any allegations, or if there are any thoughts, or it's the police or the licensing authority wish to do a spot check on the premises, and of course they can do so. They could ask for CCTV to be produced for particular times of the day, for particular days, in order to be able to establish that Mr. Yaqub Kanat is not present at the premises or involved in the day-to-day running of the premises, and involved in bringing to the premises. If it was felt to be of any greater assistance, if you wanted an independent audit to be carried out, then it's something which I know I've discussed with Mr. Kanat, that an audit, a monthly audit, could be produced, which would confirm compliance with, or spot checks have been carried out at the premises to ensure that they are complying with the terms of the license, and that report can be produced to the police and to the licensing authority. It's difficult in cases like this where the trust is broken in such a way that I suppose everyone is being questioned, and I can understand the questions you have in respect to Mr. Abdul Haleem Kanat. He, I'm sure, wants to assure you that he wants to maintain, he wants to reopen the premises when he's able to on the 26th of April. He would like to be able to do that with a premises license, and he will operate in the way that he's put forward to you today, Madam. I don't know whether that addresses all the points that you've raised, but I've tried to, I think, cover them all.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. Yes, that's very fulsome. Thank you. That's all my questions, Richard.
Okay, thanks very much, Sally, for that. Robert, in seeking to suggest that the evidence linking the doctor's report and the report of the car found to be leaving the premises with people who had a large amount of drugs, you suggested that people might have an axe to grind against the premises and its owners. Are you aware, or are your clients aware of any such acts?
I think it was raised, I think, in also in relation to the allegation in relation to the drugs with children in September. I think there's always potential for people who are aggrieved at being removed from premises, or not being allowed into premises, or feeling that they've been treated unfairly by premises. I think that always can happen with any licensed premises that are operated. I certainly come across it. Am I aware of specific instances? No. I think in relation to the my comment in relation to the issue was more in relation to, I think, the September intelligence. There was a reference to, sorry, I'm just trying to refresh my memory. I think there's reference to Kurdish, and I know that can be, there can be a lot of contention between Turkish and Kurdish people, and it was that reference which could give an indication that that it was somebody with an axe to grind. It's actually in the record, isn't it, page 22. The dealers are described as Kurdish. That was a flag for me. The other part of this is that you just don't know the grade. It could be no more than tittle tattle or gossip. You just don't know, and without that qualification that the police will have given to it, it's very difficult to assess. I think my comment in relation to the doctor was that it was a reference that he'd been brought in from the snooker club with knife injuries, and I think we say that it's difficult because we're not a party to the telephone call. We've not seen the full record. We think that it should say that he had been to the club and the slashing took place outside on the street, but it certainly doesn't take place inside. The other issue that you've raised in relation to the car being stopped, I mean, who knows? You just don't know. Again, it's a record of what somebody says in a car. Again, we don't know the quality of that intelligence. It could be somebody who's got a grievance. It may be something more to it. I don't know. It doesn't. I mean, it happens on the 21st of February. What action is taken on that? We just don't know. There's no evidence that's put in front of you which says that those individuals have come from the club. That I mean, the suggestion, I suppose, is that they've been selling drugs at the club, but there's no evidence of that, and we flatly refute that. And of course, if the police want to investigate it, I'm not sure whether the 21st of February would still be available on the hard drive. It's possible it may be, simply because the hard drive was removed for a period, but they've always been able to interrogate that. When we don't become aware of it until, as I say, we see the papers for the closure order.
Okay, thanks for that. It leads quite well on to my next question, which is in describing how the various incidents could be avoided. One means is by banning certain people from coming in whose behaviour has not been exemplary, and this happens in pubs. It happens in other licensed premises if people are just verbally abusive, and license holders have the discretion to bar people from their premises. Seeing as you thought that one of the reasons for the axe to grind might be from barring people from premises, have you any idea how many people have been barred from the premises up to the closure?
Let me just ask that particular question. I'm told that a number of people have been barred from the premises. There was quite a number that were barred, obviously, before the closure process. The traveller group that were the problem, or led to the problems, I say, at the premises, have certainly been barred. But there were other groups who've been barred from the premises. I mean, one of the reasons, I suppose, that we submit the membership system is to reinforce that. It becomes much easier to control in relation to the barring if you have the membership system, because obviously membership can be revoked. Guests of members, if those guests cause a problem, then of course we can deal with the guest, but we can also deal with the member who's allowed the guest in.
Okay. I was muting myself. But thank you very much for that. In other premises, it's common to have door staff who are suitably qualified. The qualification, but bearing in mind that your client proposes to have up to 4 staff to regulate the premises, would there be any would it be uneconomic or difficult for them to join the scheme whereby you have qualified door staff? I can't. Susan, can you remind me of the?
So I think it's probably SIA.
SIA, yeah.
Certainly, SIA qualified door staff is there's no condition on the license that requires SIA door staff. That doesn't prevent. Absolutely, sir. That doesn't prevent, of course, the premises engaging SIA door staff. There is a substantial cost in relation to SIA door staff. Not only the hourly rate, but usually there's a minimum number of hours that they would be expected to engage door staff on any particular day. If the committee were looking at such a condition, then I suppose my first submission would be that we have sought to avoid the necessity of the cost of door staff by having the membership system and controlling it that way. If the committee are not with me in that regard and do feel that it's still appropriate and proportionate to have a door staff engaged, then I would ask that it be limited to 1 SIA registered door staff on the basis that we've got a door entry system. And I would ask that the door staff would only be required to be present. I would suggest, sir, from probably 9 p.m. Through till close or half an hour after close on a Friday and Saturday, and no more than that, simply because the numbers during the week are probably going to be much less. If we were looking at times, again, and I'm thinking here of the cost for my client, I would probably actually say if it could be from 9:30 through till 1:30, then that would be a minimum 4 hours, but it would also enable the door staff to be on duty, and obviously would cover half an hour after the premises closes to make sure that all customers, etc., have gone by the 1:15 time that I've mentioned and have also left the area, and so that there's no problems being caused outside. So I would suggest if you could come, if you were minded to impose such a condition, that you look at making it from 9:30 in the evening on a Friday and Saturday.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thanks for that. That kind of answers my question. Could you just, with the membership system, I think you did give this undertaking, but with it would come a system of recording the identity not only of members entering and presumably leaving, well, possibly not leaving the premises, but and their guests, the identity of the guests, who would of course be age checked, I guess, with the photo ID that's needed. Those records would be retained, would they? So it would be possible to look at who later for the responsible authorities to check who's been in the premises.
So yes, in the on the pages for the conditions which I've put forward, the membership condition of entry condition covers obviously the members admission, but then it states each guest of a member will be required to produce a photographic form of ID to remain on the premises. Copy of the ID will be retained for a period of 30 days and shall be produced on demand for inspection by the police or an authorised officer of the council. I've chosen 30 days, so if you were looking at keeping it the same as the CCTV, then you could say 31 days. There's nothing magic in that period I've specified, so it could be 31.
Thanks very much. I think that's all my questions. Thank you very much. Now we have questions from Tony, I think, to start with.
Chair, I've got no questions at the moment.
Okay. Marta.
No questions.
Susan.
Oh,
Hello? Susan, have you got any questions? Hello? Have you muted yourself? We can't. Oh, you're muted. So you need, Susan, you need to unmute to tell us whether you've got any questions or not. Or you might be asking them, for all I know at the moment. Well,
Chair, let me call her and see if I can get through.
Susan, I can see you. Have you got any questions? No, you're muted. But I can see, you've indicated you haven't. I hope you can hear us. You seem to be able to hear us, but it's just as well you haven't got any questions because you don't seem to be able to ask them. You'd have to type them into the chat. Okay. Right. It's now, unless I've made a mistake, which I don't think I have, it's necessary for everybody to sum up their case, but I'm assuming because you haven't got any questions, you don't want to. But Tony, do you wish to sum up? No, hang on, sorry, that's wrong.
CCTV?
It's Marta. Do you wish to sum up your case?
Sorry, Chair, to interrupt, but I just wanted to check if you felt that this may be an appropriate time for us to move to
for us to watch
CCTV.
The video. Thank you very much. I hadn't put the video into my schedule, which I'm following slavishly, so that our procedure is not open to question in terms of its correctness. I think this would be a good time for us now to view the CCTV. Thank you for reminding me. Sally, was that what you were going to say?
That is precisely what I was going to say, Richard.
Yeah.
Should I take it as formally resolved to move to exclusion?
Yeah. Well, unless Kay's got a wishes to query the exclusion. Great. Let's move formally to the exclusion, which means we just stop the
I'll let you know when we're back. We're back now.
Marta can summarise her case if she wishes.
Thank you. Obviously,
Followed by, yeah, sorry, yeah. So go ahead.
Thank you. Just wanted to highlight, obviously, from our disclosure for closure order that we obtained from police, highlighted several fights over the course of 2 months or so. Quite frequently, obviously, assaults in the form of a fight or a group fight has taken place. I'm not sure whether there was any indication from Tony's side whether he has seen a footage or CCTV from the other dates, a part of the 27th of February. I don't know whether there is the evidence available, but obviously for the last couple of months that something has taken place. There's no indication that any sort of procedure or anything was implemented to prevent further occurrence of such incidents at the premises. Obviously, it's very important to highlight that children were allowed at the premises outside the hours of operation. The premises was operating outside hours most of the days. It's not, in my opinion, COVID, and it's not excuse to breach the license. I'm still of the opinion that obviously the premises have failed to stick to its license, and revocation of license it should be considered.
Okay. Thank you, Marta. Susan, if I'm not mistaken, is next.
Thank you, Chair. It is in the view of licensing that the continuous after licensed hours alcohol sales and subsequent intoxication of these individuals was very likely a large factor in the subsequent disorder. The DPS also stated that he was unable to stop individuals bringing in their own alcohol and smoking inside, so he allowed it to take place. It is our view that these incidents demonstrate a pattern of irresponsible and inadequate management of the premises that have undermined the licensing objectives. It is highly unlikely after hour sales only occurred on the nights there were incidents, rather we were just able to prove it on those dates due to looking at the CCTV. We acknowledge that the premises license holder and the designated premises supervisor's representative has recommended conditions, however are unable to consider such but revocation of this license, as we do not have faith that anything less will prevent the licensing objectives continuing to be undermined because of how poorly this place has been managed. Licensing's enforcement view as a responsible authority is that the license should be revoked. Amending this existing license is not something we feel is justified in this case, or putting the premises back in the hands of the designated premises supervisor's brother, Abdul. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Susan. And now I believe it's Robert to summarise.
So thank you. The situation the committee face, as I've indicated, is how to promote the licensing objectives. It's my submission that the steps which involve the removal of the DPS, the changing of the license by adding conditions, and the suspension of the license for a period of time through to the, I've suggested the 26th of April, which is when the closure order comes to an end, would be appropriate and proportionate means by which the license objectives can be promoted. This isn't an issue of punishment, though sometimes I think a review process is seen as that. That is dealt with by, I suppose, a court on a different day if any form of criminal action is taken. This is purely about the promotion of the licensing objectives. The conditions which I've set out, which in effect will remove the problem group from the premises, removes the problem DPS from the premises, that those two things put together with Mr. Abdul Haleem's Kanat's responsibility and readmission to the premises himself, coming back to the premises to run it, is the way forward. The suspension of the license through till the 26th of April would enable all of these things that we're proposing to make sure that they're in place. The membership system, which needs to be introduced, which will mean that only members can attend, that only members with guests with a form of identity, identification, photo identification being produced will be able to be admitted. Extensive CCTV condition. A requirement that if there's any failure of the CCTV system that can't be rectified, that's notified to the police and licensing team. That the condition requiring Mr. Kanat, Mr. Yaqub Kanat, not to be involved in the management or control of the premises. And then the timings being introduced in relation to the last admission, the last orders, and everybody, every customer being required to leave the premises and not be present on the premises between 01:15 to 1100 hours. That is, it is my submission, addresses the concerns and issues which have been highlighted through the closure order process. The proposals that I'm putting forward are proportionate and appropriate, and I would commend them to the committee, allowing the license to continue, but on the basis that I've just explained. There were additional conditions which were put forward and raised, and again, if the committee felt that it was appropriate for a dual supervisor to be engaged, I've indicated that I would submit that it should be on Fridays and Saturdays from 9:30 in the evening. Glass is thrown at the premises, though I also accept that obviously there's pool cues and other items at the premises which may be used as weapons, but if it was felt again appropriate and proportionate, then a polycarbonate condition could be imposed, which would, or having strengthened glass to prevent breakages may be another condition which the committee may feel is appropriate. I don't know whether I can assist you further, sir.
Thank you very much, Robert. And now it's for Tony to sum up his case.
Thank you, Chair. What we can see from this incident is a group of people which have been identified as members of the travelling community, effectively taking over the licensed premises. The DPS appears to fully accept this, as he is seen at one point posing with photos behind the bar with the main instigator of the incident. The CCTV shows the amount of alcohol that is sold and consumed, and a period of time which I believe is the causation for the violence that took place. During the incident, the DPS can be seen walking around with no control over the venue. This situation could and should have been prevented prior to the incident taking place. As the licensing officer for the Borough of Waltham Forest, I have lost all confidence in the venue and the DPS based on what I have witnessed on both nights. It is a shame that due to the CCTV hard drive being corrupted, that we were unable to retrieve the incident from the following night. The venue have operated beyond their licensable hours, and it is evident that irresponsible sales of alcohol have contributed to this level of violence. They have acted with absolute disregard of the licensing objectives with respect to the prevention of crime and disorder, protection of public safety, and the protection of children from harm. It is with all this evidence in mind that I recommend the committee to consider revocation with regards to the licence for this venue. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Tony. I think, just before we go in, we retire, or you retire. Is there anything else that anyone wishes to, any statement that anyone wishes to make? Okay, well, I'd like to thank everybody for their time today in coming to help us to determine this application, and our results will be communicated in due course. Chris, just remind everybody when it is.
So what will happen now is that the subcommittee members will go into a private meeting to make the decision. We have the requirement to announce a decision today. So what will happen is that we will, if it's okay with parties, we will go into our separate adjournment meeting, and then once the decision is made, we will re-invite parties into this meeting, and it'll either be through phone call or through an email when the subcommittee is ready to announce its decision.
But the reasons will be communicated later, is that right?
Yes, full reasons will be communicated in writing in the usual way through the decision letter, which will be circulated within 5 working days of this hearing. Okay, so thank you very much, everybody. We might see each other virtually again today, or I suppose we might. and we are back.
All right. Thank you very much, everybody, for waiting while we were in retirement, so to speak. Having heard the representations from all the parties present, the committee considered the application to review a premises licence and determined to suspend the premises licence for 3 months, starting on the 5th of April 2022, and add the following conditions. No one under the age of 16 to be permitted in the premises. Mr. Yaqub Kanat will not be involved in the management, control, or will not be employed on the premises in any capacity. No admission of customers to premises from Sunday to Thursday after 10:15 p.m. No admission of customers to the premises on Friday and Saturday after 11:15 p.m. One SIA door staff will be present at the premises between 20:30 and midnight 30 on Friday and Saturday. The conditions proposed by the applicant, save the conditions that have been amended above, to be added to the licence. The committee also has reduced the hours of the sale of alcohol from Sunday to Thursday 11 a.m. to 10:30 p.m. and on Friday and Saturday from 11 a.m. till 11:30 p.m. and the opening hours from Sunday to Thursday 11 a.m. till 11 p.m. Friday and Saturday from 11 a.m. to 12 midnight. A letter with full reasons will be sent to all parties within 5 working days of this decision. In accordance with the provisions contained within Schedule 5 to the Licensing Act 2003, the relevant parties have the right to appeal against the decision of the subcommittee to the Thames Magistrate Court, 58 Bow Road, London E3 4DJ. Such an appeal can be made within 21 days of the notification of this decision. Thank you very much, everybody, for your attendance. And that concludes our proceedings for today.
Thank you, Chair.